I'll break up the Baltimore Ravens. Their demise was greatly overstated. They are right back in the mix in the AFC. They've looked fantastic over the last couple of weeks and, really honestly could have won any of the games that they played in. Let's bring in Melissa Kim. She, of course, is talking Baltimore Ravens and covering them, working for 105.7 The Fan. And I think when you look at this, I mean, for me, the bottom line is I think, Melissa, that people just forget how good a coach Harbaugh is. They make adjustments over the course of the season, and it looks like they've made one pretty quickly with just giving that ball to Derrick Henry, haven't they?
Yeah, John Harbaugh nearing 2 decades coaching in the league, right? So definitely a lot of experience, especially in terms of turning teams around. And, coming into this season, there was a lot of chatter, of course, about the offensive line. They lost 3 guys in the offseason, 3 veteran guys, which is, I think, the key point there. So they're literally starting Andrew Voorhees at left guard, who had a redshirt year last year in his rookie season. Daniel Fa'alele at right guard, who had his fair share at tackle, so not necessarily the guard position. So he transitioned over the guard position. And then a little mix of Patrick McCary, who is their offensive lineman that can play literally any position on that line, as well as Roger Rosengard, the rookie out of Washington. So that obviously was basically the big talker into training camp and in the preseason, because you don't really know how these guys are going to play together. And because the starters don't really play a whole lot in the preseason, they really didn't actually get going until week 1. And you think about the games that they lost, right? Obviously, Kansas City literally lost by a toenail. And then in week 2 against the Raiders at home, a very rare occurrence for this team to lose at home. But Gardner Minshew has had their number before. But again, a game that was close. And then they finally go on the road to Dallas, finally getting a win against Dak Prescott, and then coming back home on Sunday Night Football and beating arguably one of the best teams in the league in the Bills. So it obviously has taken some time for them to gel, which we expected. I think this was something that was an expectation because of the lack of reps that the offensive line got together. And now we're seeing vintage King Henry that we saw in the Titans, the guy that can literally truck through other human beings, multiple human beings, and really wear down other run defenses.
Yeah, you mentioned it, the vintage part, because Derrick Henry did not look that great in his last year in Tennessee. And you would probably take the game that he had the other night and say, okay, that's the best game he's had in over a year. I think that's fair. 199 yards, including an 87-yard touchdown. And as we take a look at the upcoming schedule for the Ravens, they take on the Bengals, the Commanders, the Buccaneers, the Browns, and the Broncos. And although I'm a pretty big Commanders backer now at this point, with the way that they played, beyond that,
right?
Yeah, I mean, they were playing great. I can't sit here and say anything negative about them, but it does feel like out of these next 5 games, which we know nothing about, and we're flipping coins, that's true. It does feel like at the very worst, they should be getting 3 wins out of these 5.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that those wins are so important to stack those wins, right? You hear the team and head coach John Harbaugh talking about that a lot, because looking down the stretch, the meat of their schedule before the bye week, which is not until week 15 this year, they've got a lot of really short weeks. They're playing on a Sunday and then on a Thursday or a Saturday, then on a Wednesday, that Christmas Day game in Houston. So they've got to really get those wins where they can right now. And obviously going against a division opponent, they're never going to take the Bengals lightly. Honestly, the Bengals were my pick to win the division coming into the season. And obviously that has transpired not the way that I thought it was going to. But regardless, and then you have the Commanders, as you said. I mean, it's such a great time to be a football fan in the Baltimore and DMV area, because they have 2 dynamic quarterbacks right now. Jayden Daniels is playing his tail off. I've heard from Commanders fans around the area who literally have not really paid a whole lot of attention to this team in the last decade. And now everybody is on the Jayden Daniels train. So it's a really cool time that I think that one is the one that I'm circling on my calendar as the game to watch right now of the Ravens' next 5 games.
Yeah, look, it's undeniable that, look, this could be the Houston of last year for me with Washington. At least that's the way that it feels like as their trajectory continues. So, let's take a look real quick at the AFC North heading into week 5. And then I do have a question about one player on Baltimore in particular that I think a lot of people are going to want to know more about. But the Steelers, they played well again last week. They sort of fumbled it away. The Colts lost to Flacco. As we mentioned, the Ravens back on track. Bengals, I don't know what to make of that win in Carolina. I still think Cincinnati's defense, Melissa's horrible. They can't stop anybody. And I think the Browns are done. I don't think the Browns are going anywhere this season based on what I've seen. Is that a fair assessment? Am I not giving the Browns enough credit? Am I not giving the Bengals enough credit here? I feel like even though it is crowded, it is Baltimore and it is Pittsburgh there at the top, unless something happens with Cincinnati's defense and I'm not aware of.
No, Cincinnati's defense has not been the best. The Browns' O-line not been the best. I mean, almost worse than I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the season, if I could say that. The Steelers coming into this week, no offense to them, I thought they were kind of a fraudulent, undefeated team because they depended so much on their field goals, right? They weren't really getting the offense rolling. And their defense kind of had a lackluster week this past week as well. So I think it's a fair assessment to say that's the Ravens and the Steelers at this point, because again, you go back to the coaching, right? We talked about head coach John Harbaugh in the beginning. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in his entire head coaching tenure. So I will never put anything past that man, because even in there was 2 seasons ago where he, I think, was on the brink of going below 500, but ended up beating the Ravens that year. It was Ben Roethlisberger's last year. So I would never put anything past a Mike Tomlin coach team.
All right. So, Melissa, as we end here, the one question that I know transcends regular football and moves into fantasy football, and I'm sure you've been asked this question as well, because I need to know also. Mark Andrews, Melissa, what is going on here? Is this it? Is this the end of the line here? I know Lamar is backing him and everything like that, but I don't know what to do here.
You see my reaction, right? That's kind of been the big, if there is
sure.
a cloud over the Baltimore offense right now, Mark Andrews has kind of been it, because we all know that he is Lamar Jackson's favorite target. We saw him get into a lot of double coverage situations to start the season off against the Chiefs. Isaiah Likely had an insane game. But no, I don't think it's the end for Mark Andrews. Absolutely not at all. I think he's still that reliable target. I think that it's taking, just like the rest of this offense, it's taking a couple weeks for him to really get going this season. So everybody that's been, putting bets on Mark Andrews, fantasy guys, just be patient. He said, be patient. He's definitely not cooked by any stretch of the imagination.
All right. I'll take your word for it, Melissa. I'm only going to give you one more week on this, though. One more week.
Right.
I got to let it go. Thanks again.
Sounds good.